Hello and welcome to Who's On Next, the podcast that curiosity didn't kill. Today I have with me a man who's had a voiceover career that has spanned about 30 years. He's been Double D on Ed, Edd and Eddy. He's been Flam on My Little Pony. He's been Lloyd on Ninjago. It is Sam Vincent.
All right. Would somebody like to try some of my cider?
I'll try some of your cider. That sounds very good.
Actually, Double D, don't try the cider. I've tried it. It's terrible.
That's a lie. Hello, everyone.
And how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've noticed you have a lot of action figures in the background.
Yes, this is some of... yes, I do, actually. I have a sampling of figures, and yeah, I like to collect.
Is that an original Technodrome?
Yes, it is.
I was going to say, is that original from the 80s?
Yeah, it is. Actually, it's not like my childhood toy. I purchased it. I actually did a trade. People are like, what? Because sometimes I like to trade things. I had a Millennium Falcon, original Millennium Falcon.
Oh my God.
Someone gifted to me. It was like under their basement, just like, just all filthy and dirty. And they said, and this guy's a comic guy. He doesn't care about toys. And he was like, dude, you want this? I'm like, do I want that? Yes. So I cleaned it all up, and and I don't know if you know the little ball in the Millennium Falcon that was where Luke was doing his, practice with. This little plastic ball that looks like a little bead. This thing is the most valuable part of this thing because it's always getting lost. And he says, oh man, when I was taking it out of the basement, it kind of fell off and fell somewhere in my garden. I'm like, what?
Oh.
So basically I went over there one day because he was like, can you let my dog out of the house and go for a pee? And I said, sure. So I said, He told me I couldn't find it, but it's around this garden bed here somewhere. So immediately I went to look for this little plastic ball, and I found it. I was like, I found it. It's this little, and it's, you just look at it. It's just like, this is the thing that just adds value to the Millennium Falcon because people want it complete. So anyway, when I saw this Technodrome, I was like, I want that now. So I thought I had my fun with the Millennium Falcon. I did a trade with the guy, and I got, actually this Oculus Eye was not part of it. Because I said, it's just not the Technodrome without the Oculus Eye. So I did get that on eBay, but everything else it's not complete, but it was good enough and it's clean enough. I liked it. So anyways, that's about the Technodrome. And,
yeah,
yeah.
I've never been like a toy collector person, but like I've always been really fascinated with toys. Or I guess like the history of toy products or things like that. I remember you brought up like the little bead is like the really important part. I remember learning about this like doll in the 80s, and I forget what it was called, but it had like these scented berries, like a little toy, like it had like little attachments to it, and it had this little thing of like berries. And the berries were scented, and the berries are considered like the most valuable part of the doll because everyone who had ever had the doll had said it's like the most amazing smelling thing in the world. And I think the berries on eBay go for like $100, like just the little berry thing.
That's the way it happens. Yeah, especially with the vintage toys, is that if you don't have it complete and you're trying to complete that toy or whatever, it's like the sword. I need that sword, and it's like, what? $40 for that little plastic sword? Or the berries, the smelly berries to complete. I wonder if that's part of the strawberry shortcake line, because I know the strawberry shortcake's hair used to smell, so I don't know.
I don't know. Also, I see a street shark back there.
Oh, dude, I just found that thrifting. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I found that street shark in a bag. Everybody wants a street shark, and I found one. I was in the wild. I was so thrilled.
I remember years ago, I talked to Lee Tokar because I used to be in contact with him.
Yeah.
And I remember I showed him, they did a Robot Chicken bit with Street Sharks like years ago. Yeah, and it's not like a flattering short towards Street Sharks. It's basically just making fun of it's just making fun of the fact it's a Ninja Turtles ripoff.
Yeah.
And I remember showing it to him, and he was laughing so hard at it, and I was like, I didn't know how you'd feel about it, and he's like, oh, I don't care, the check cleared 20 years ago.
Yeah, and also, honestly, people love Street Sharks, and they love the toys. Like, it's huge. Those things go for major bucks. Like if you can find them in the box, like especially like there's a lot of I watch a lot of toy stuff channels from Mexico, and they love collecting street sharks, and everybody loves them. So that's why I was thrilled to have that, and the fact that Lee was on the show and my buddy Matt Hill was a street shark too. I don't think Lee would. I think Matt gets it, but I'm like, you're a street shark, bro. Come on, man, that's awesome. So,
Well, it's like he was a street shark and a Ninja Turtle. So
oh yeah, he's been sharks, he's been turtles.
I have
The
been
dude
wanting
is-
to. I've talked to Matt twice on my
okay.
podcast. I've wanted to talk to him for a third time for a very long time because I love Matt so much.
Yeah, he's such a good guy. He's such a good guy. Yeah, he's so full of energy, and he just loves meeting fans and talking to people and sharing stories. He's awesome.
So I guess this getting into this, what is it that got you your start in acting? Or I guess where did the interest come from?
Well, just being my brother was an actor as well. Gabe Coote. We grew up acting together in high school, but before that, we were always kind of like the comedy duo growing up, trying to keep our parents entertained and just putting on skits and that stuff you do when you're a kid, just hamming it up or pretending you're Bruce Lee and creating fake karate fights. And one big thing that we used to love to do is we like to do our own version of Carol Burnett, like the skits from Carol Burnett, the Carol Burnett show. Like we were doing Mrs. Huygens, and like we were putting like grapefruits in our shirts, pretending to be Mrs. Huygens and Mr. Tudbull and all that. The old school comedy stuff. We used to try and do that stuff for our parents, and then when we got into high school, we were starting to do theater, sports, and we enrolled in the drama class program. And as teenagers, we were fortunate that it was in the kind of the mid 80s where the industry in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, was beginning to burgeon. Like Stephen J. Cannell was coming up to produce TV. He opened the studios in North Vancouver, Cannell Studios. They started producing things like 21 Jump Street, other shows. And there was a woman named Carol Tarlington, originally from Australia, but she lived in Canada, and she opened a theater school called Vancouver Youth Theater. And so it was basically, she was doing original theater productions for youth, and also opened a talent agency called Tarlington Talent. And we had a couple of friends who were part of Vancouver Youth Theater, and they already were part of an agency. So we kind of got in through friends who were acting and got introduced into the actual professional world of the industry through this agency. And we started kind of working professionally very young, like in our teen years. So I was going out for shows like 21 Jump Street and other shows like Wise Guy. And so was my brother, and we were starting to get a little bit of work on camera. And I was also continuing to do theater, and it was great because we had a great drama. I had two great drama teachers in high school, Judith Hogan and Oscar Gonzalez, and we won a few awards with theater. But then we also were doing on camera work, and then I got my first audition for a cartoon, which I didn't realize you could even do animation. But I got an audition for this show called Dragon Warrior, which was, I always forget this, because it was called something different in Japanese, but they called it in English Dragon Warriors, based on a video game. And we dubbed 13 episodes of this show, and they didn't go any further with it. I think there were plenty more episodes in Japanese, but they didn't continue it in English. That was my first kind of kick at the can, doing voice work and dubbing and getting used to all that whole thing. And then I started to do a little bit more voice work. I kind of liked the voice work. I don't know, I just liked it. I was having success with it. And then my first prelay was Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars, which was a great experience, working with like legendary voice director Wally Burr, and working with people who are older than me who had kind of got they're a little bit ahead of me in terms of getting into the voice industry. You had people in there. Gary Chalk was in there, and Dale
I know,
Wilson.
I know Long John Baldry
Long
was
John
one of them.
Baldry was in
Yeah.
there too. He was old school, like one of the first guys. Because all these people weren't necessarily, we weren't trained voice actors. We were people from different backgrounds. Either it was music or it was radio, theater, and these people kind of had some natural built-in talent for voice work, for voice performing, and so we kind of got thrown into this new industry and developing our skills and talents behind the microphone. And so it was fun watching, people like Scott McNeil was Dead-Eye Duck, and just and Jay Brazeau, who, if you don't know, he's just like in where we are in Vancouver, he's kind of like a local legend for all the work he's done.
I remember him. I believe he was in. I remember him in. I think Hot Rod with Andy Samberg. I think he had like a bit part in that.
Yeah, I mean he was working with big names at the time. Like he had a really nice part in that De Niro Sean Penn movie We're No Angels.
I know. I've seen Blue Mancuma in quite a few
Blue?
things too.
Oh yeah, Blue too. I mean those guys were just they were older than me, so I was watching them do their thing, and they were already kind of established more in the voice. And Ian Corlett was there, and so many guys that I kind of just, as a slightly younger dude, was just watching and learning from and trying to, figure out this whole voice acting thing. So very, very, I love, yeah, it's a very interesting time in the history of what we were doing. And I'm just lucky that I got to be a part of that.
And I guess, like, what was it? Because you said dubbing was like the first thing, and dubbing is a much more. I've seen some people who said dubbing is more difficult compared to like traditional ADR or like Western animation. So I guess how was that doing that first comparative to Bucky?
Yeah, it was my first thing, so I didn't know that was my first experience, I think, dubbing in general. Like, I don't think maybe I'd done some looping for some on-camera work at the time. I can't really remember, but it was interesting. A guy who I kind of give a lot of credit for helping me get my career started was Doug Parker. And Doug Parker was a voice guy, but he got into casting as well. He was helping out a lot of the companies that were casting in Vancouver, like BLT and also at the Ocean Group, because that was through the Ocean Group where I dubbed the Dragon Warrior. And
Yeah, because Ocean was dubbing like they were like every major anime production, I believe, in Vancouver was Ocean.
Yeah, for a period of time, they did so many dubs that, people were really gearing to, like loved Ranma 1/2, Inuyasha.
Dragon Ball, like, was the really, really
Dragon
big
Ball.
one.
Yeah, the first Dragon Ball English dub, and many more. So Doug Parker was the guy who I auditioned for, and then I believe he directed me in Dragon Warrior as well. And just getting used to the whole dubbing, it was, I don't know, you kind of just go with the flow. You kind of learn, and that you get the 3 beeps in your headphones, and then you got to match the flaps, and there's this whole little dance that goes on with, sometimes maybe it's written in, when they translate it into English, you're 2 flaps too short, so you got to add something, or you got to stretch it out. You just kind of learn as you go along. But I didn't really struggle with it too much. I mean, sometimes people have a natural thing for it. They just like do it, and then it fits, and you go, oh, you're good at this, right? And some people may have to struggle a little harder to try and get the knack of it, but it felt like I had the knack for it in the beginning. But like I say, it was so long ago, who knows? Maybe I sucked and I just didn't know. But yeah.
Well, I guess a few years in to that, Ed, and Eddy came around in the late 90s, and that's been one of the most iconic early 2000s cartoons, especially for Cartoon Network at the time. And it was, I believe, the only big Canadian show on Cartoon Network at the time, at least Canadian voiced.
Yeah, well, it was because, it's thanks to, Danny, the creator of the show, being Canadian and having his. I can't say that I was privy to any of the conversations about whether or not Cartoon Network is saying no, we want an LA cast versus a Vancouver-based cast. I'm not privy to those conversations, but in the end, they managed finding people that they were happy with in Vancouver. So it was an all Canadian-based cast, which I thought was kind of cool because it was a Canadian. Even though it was a Cartoon Network show, it was a Danny Antonucci show, and Danny is Canadian, and all the you know all the storyboard artists and things were Canadian, and the voice cast was Canadian. So it does feel, it does have that kind of stamp on it as kind of being Canadian, which is cool.
Well, not even just that. I think it's the coolest thing was at the time it was the longest running Cartoon Network show. I think it ran 10 years, 9 years.
Yeah,
think.
yeah. It was quite a little stretch there that we went, and it's it's a great experience. It's one of those shows that will always remain kind of like an iconic cartoon that I'm just happy to be a part of, because you don't get too many of those in a career, and for me it's kind of the quintessential role that I think most people remember me for. So it's just nice to be a part of something that has lasting legacy now with 25 years, 25th anniversary this year. So it's very cool.
I guess I'd always been curious because they would do a lot of, in the 2000s at least, they would do a lot of crossover ads with American with the other American shows like Johnny Bravo and Courage, and like the Eds would be there sometimes, or they'd have some kind of crossover. Now, knowing that those were all like American-based productions and they'd have some kind of crossover with you guys doing the voices, would you guys, like, when you were doing commercials like that or things like that, would you normally be doing those first, or would you be doing those like later? Like comparative in terms of recording?
You mean in comparison to the other people doing
Yeah, to the American actors.
Oh, I don't
the
know.
commercials.
Honestly, I would get, when we were recording, the episodes of the show, I'd get a call from my agent and say they want to do another Cartoon Friday promo thing or whatever, and I go, okay, so we just set up the date and we went in and recorded our part of it. So I never really had any kind of idea of how it was going in conjunction with what was going on and with the other actors from the other shows in the States. I didn't really have any clue. I probably didn't even care. I was like, oh, I gotta go do my work and let them do.
Oh, Cartoon Fridays. Cartoon Fridays. Cartoon Fridays.
It's just going in and saying that and doing little things. And it's funny that I never really, because and this is another thing that a lot of people might not realize, is that Ed, and Eddy in Canada ran on Teletoon, which was our kind of like Cartoon Network up here.
I think it was like YTV was like Nickelodeon, and Teletoon was the Cartoon Network.
Right,
I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So they ran it for 13 episodes, the first 13, and then they never ran it again. They didn't
really.
Continue. Yeah, that's it. So nobody in Canada really. I mean, maybe now they do because of the internet and they can watch it, whatever. But when the show was at its kind of height of popularity, when it was actually being broadcast, nobody in Canada had a clue about that show.
Well, I remember I have a couple Canadian friends, and they had told me about how they had never really seen it, which I thought was very bizarre, because there's a lot of Canadian shows that we never got, and there are things that we did get, like we got 16 and Total Drama Island and League of Super Evil and things like that, and Martin Mystery. Like, we got all those, but there were some other things. Like, I remember a friend of mine brought up, like, oh, Flying Rhino Junior High, and certain, like, Toronto productions that we never got. And
yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't know why Teletoon didn't want to pick it. Who knows? There's always so many different factors going on with that kind of stuff. But it was interesting because here we are making this show that was really getting, because we're getting response, we're getting letters from around the world, because at that point Cartoon Network, if you had satellite, it was global, right? It was just like all over the world. So we'd be getting letters from people, and whenever we travel to different places, people knew about Ed and Eddy, but nobody knew about it in Canada, which is kind of ironic. It was like, so many Canadians made that show, but nobody in Canada knew about it. So that was kind of funny.
I guess something I'd been curious about, because around the same time as Ed, and Eddy, there was a show you did where you technically dubbed over for another actor. So Sonic Underground happened the year Ed, and Eddy came out. Now, you did the singing voice for Sonic, and I was never really able to find any information as to how that happened, because Jaleel was doing the show. I assumed maybe it was because Jaleel couldn't sing and they needed to find a replacement. Like, I don't...
Yeah, to be honest, I think that's what I heard, but I had trouble believing that he didn't know how to sing. I don't know. Honestly, at that time in my career, I wasn't picky about getting work. I was like, what? You want me to sing the songs for Sonic? I was like, okay. So it's like, great. I didn't, at that point, you're like, why isn't Jaleel doing it? And they go, oh, who knows? I don't know, right? It's like, but now I'm at a place where I'm like, I like to be part of like anything that has some kind of legacy. It's always nice to be attached to it, right? So I get to say, well, if I do a con, I'm the singing Sonic, that's what I do, because it's like, it's specific to this show, and he's got his guitar, and I sang the songs, and I still get, feedback from people who say, believe it or not, I still have, I play those songs, when I'm at work, or I just listen to those songs, and so that's kind of fun and that was a good learning experience. That was my first time, I think, singing, songs in character for a show. I went on to do more of that, with like My Little Pony and Littlest Pet Shop. But that was my first time singing songs, and it was a good experience. I enjoyed it.
Was that an audition? I've always I'm very curious as to how they conducted that. Like, was the singing Sonic an audition, or were they like, I think this guy's voice is pretty close? Like...
No, I think it was definitely, if I remember correctly, it was an audition. They gave me a song sample of what we were going to sing. And then they, I went in an audition. I had to, they played the track back, and I had to audition for it. I had to sing the lyrics and like a regular audition. So, I think maybe they just thought that my vocal quality was in the ballpark for Sonic, and it was kind of a rock and roll kind of sound, yeah. So it was like, I know, it was fun to do that, So anyway, yeah, I auditioned, and I got it, and it was those sessions were fun.
Were you, because I know sometimes, I know Stevie Valance was one of the singers, and I forget who the other singer was. Would you guys all sing together, or was it like a separate recording session for each person?
No, we were all there to record our parts, because there was some Canadian cast in that show. I believe Gary Chalk was Robotnik.
Yeah, so, it was mostly Vancouver. Jaleel, I think, was like one of the only carryovers, I believe, from Sonic's at AM.
Yeah, and then there was LaMarche was on there too as one of the villains. So
I forgot Maurice was on there.
There was Maurice LaMarche was one of the villains on there on that show. So there was a couple of Americans, but it was filled out by Canadian cast as well. But they recorded the actual the dialogue script on our own, but we recorded the songs all together. So Stevie was there. And then we would record it together during the same session, for sure. But but everybody went in and did their tracks. We didn't vocalize together, I don't believe. I think we did our tracks separately, but so, yeah.
Okay. And I guess because you brought up being a part of Sonic and being part of these bigger franchises, because you've been a part of, so you were on the Fantastic Four, and you've been a part of Transformers and Star Wars, and you were in Planet Hulk and all these, and Sonic Underground and all these things. Is there ever been a franchise or a character you've always wanted to play?
That I haven't done?
Or yeah, like something you've always wanted to be a part of, or maybe a character you've always wanted to do.
I kind of played that game back when I was younger. Like, oh, I want to be this, or I want to be like, it was like when we did X-Men Evolution. I wanted to be one of the main X-Men, and I ended up being Forge, and I was like, nah, I'm Forge. I had the Toy Biz. I think I still have it. Action figure. What does Forge do? He's got a mustache and he's got like a little leg band. That's not cool. That was me. Like, I want to be a cool X-Men. So, but I always found that when I wanted something too bad, like, oh, I really want this, I never got it. So I just stopped wanting things too bad. I would just put my head down, do my work, and if I got something, I was happy with it. So, I think that I've been more happy just being part of like certain things, like whether it's, a major, for me, kind of my progression as a voice actor, my career, a pivotal moment. Even Ed and Eddy was a big moment for me, but I didn't know what Ed and Eddy was gonna be. Like, at the time you're going, this is cool, I'm doing Ed and Eddy, but years later you're like, wow, that's something. But like Baby Looney Tunes was a big thing for me to be able to, be a part of a show that had iconic characters, and to get 3 characters on that show was a huge kind of milestone for me as a voice actor. Like, I felt like I'd kind of like got to a certain point where I can, and to be able to take that on and try and bring justice to it was a huge moment for me in my career, just feeling like, wow, I finally kind of got where I wanted to be,
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, that actually segues into a question I had regarding Baby Looney Tunes.
Mm-hmm.
Was going to be like, what was it like getting to do famous? I mean, not like the adult versions, but to be able to play famous, like, historical characters like that.
The thing is that the fact that they were babies, they were still like, oh man, you're trying to fill in some tiny shoes because they're babies, but just those iconic characters, and I felt like there was less pressure because I just needed to capture the vocal quality and their character as opposed to doing a voice match, which freed me up with just feeling more comfortable doing it. But it was still it was a big deal for me to be able to do those characters, be part of, like, say it's there's things that have legacy, and that's definitely, even anything Looney Tunes was cool. And even though unfortunately we didn't get to work with June Foray, because she was recording down in LA.
I was gonna say, I assume she probably wasn't recording with the cast.
No, I mean, it was just, I think also with her age and just travel and all that, it was just much easier to get her. But just to be on a show and you're doing your acting, and there's June Foray doing her granny, and it's one of those things that's very cool to be part of that. Yeah.
And I guess, like, because I've always said that Looney Tunes have always been like a very hard thing to get right, at least like voice wise, because like I've always said everybody can do a Bugs Bunny, but few people can do a great Bugs Bunny. Mm-hmm. Like, it's kind of like a Popeye. Like, everyone can do a Popeye, but very few people can do like a great Popeye. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of those things where, if you could, would you want to do like the grown-up Bugs in like a project?
I honestly, it would, if I put in enough practice, maybe I could get there. But I think it's one of those things, either you have a natural kind of quality that can already there and you work on it. Like, I think Eric Bauza's doing a great job with what he's doing, and I could probably it just require a lot of I think practice, and just I did enough watching of Looney Tunes to try and capture Baby Bugs and Daffy and Tweety, to get that quality. I don't know. It wouldn't be as thrilling for me to try and tackle those characters, because I think that obviously those characters have lived beyond Mel Blanc, and they need to continue on. But for me, I'm always kind of going, Mel's the original. But so it's not like on top of my list to go, oh, I'd love to do reproduce those voices.
Well, I remember watching. I'd gone back to some Baby Looney Tunes stuff like a week or two ago, like in preparation for this, and I was listening to Daffy. I think you could do probably pretty fairly close. Because your Daffy's very close in the baby version, I think.
I would think I had the most success with Daffy, and also Daffy is just a fun character to do. He is a very fun character to do, and I could probably, if I was gonna do the grown up version, I think that I could probably get there. There's just so many levels to Daffy that there's so many interesting things that Daffy does with his expression that and getting that iconic laugh, woohoo hoo hoo, that was like fun because it's almost like you just got to commit to it and ride it, ride it till the end. But there's just so many levels to him, his whiny, his low, oh brother, and it's just so many different aspects to him that are fun to do. So maybe I could probably get there and feel pretty good about the Daffy. But like I say, it's kind of nice to say I was the baby versions of these characters.
Yeah.
So it's its own thing. You know what I mean? It's like its own thing. And like I say, I think I captured the essence of each of those characters enough to kind of give myself the thumbs up on it. So
because
I'm happy with it.
There's certain things about Mel, well, even current people who've done Daffy before, there's certain things where, like, I have tried, because Daffy's my favorite character, like, in anything ever. He's, like, my favorite character of all time.
Yeah.
But with Daffy Duck, there's always been, I can never get F sounds, and I don't understand how people got the on the F sounds anytime people do that. It's very, because it turns into a V.
Very.
Yeah, it turns into a V.
Yeah, the F's are hard. That's right, bub. The F. Fortunately, that's very.
Yeah, it's challenging. And it's messy too. Gosh, man.
Well, it's the same thing if you try to do Sylvester. It's the same kind of thing, but Sylvester, I noticed there's a lot more when you do it. There's a lot more spit to it than Daffy.
Yeah, because he's much more mouthy and tonguey.
Much more marble mouth.
Yeah, marble mouth. Yeah. Yeah, that's I see. Yeah. Anyway, let's just props to Mel Blanc.
I was gonna say, like, I try. I think every voice actor tries to do at least one Looney Tune in their life, or at least they try to do one or two. Marvin is like the only one I'm confident in. That's like the only one. But Marvin,
he's more reproducible in some, because you're going, everybody's kind of going in there and trying to do their voice.
I think the biggest issue with it is you got to try and make it not turn into Kermit the Frog.
Well, Kermit the Frog here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's because they're both living in there, a little bit. But Kermit the Frog is more up here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that was another, I don't know. I'm going to veer off into influences, but Jim Henson and Frank Oz, love those guys.
I've got so many
Frank Oz.
I've got so many Muppet books. I have so many Muppet books. I love Muppet stuff so much. That's like the last. I interviewed a British voice actor named Mark Silk, and we gushed about Muppet stuff. I think like 10 minutes on that podcast.
Yeah, it was just great acting. Aside from the voice, it's just like character based, and the voice is, it adds to it. But like Frank Oz.
I love Frank. I was gonna say Little Shop of Horrors is like probably one of my favorite things he ever did.
Yeah. And he was a film director too. I know.
Yeah.
I've heard stories that he didn't get, like, I remember he was directing a film with Brando, one of the last films of Brando.
Oh, I know. It's the one where he was like sitting at a desk the whole, or they had to shoot him from the waist up, something like that.
Yeah.
He was in like
they
PJ
shot it in
pants or
Montreal.
something.
They shot it in Montreal. I think De Niro was in it, but apparently Brando just didn't take him seriously because he's like, what? He's like, what are you gonna put you're gonna put your hand up my butt and make me talk, Frank? you know, because he was a puppeteer as well, or whatever. It's
If that's the movie I'm thinking of, I remember I think they had to like shoot him from the waist up at all times because he didn't want to wear pants on set, so he was wearing like PJ pants the whole time or something like that.
Yeah, that was like I say, his last movie probably, I think. But yeah, I mean, Frank Oz, in terms of just what he's done, you know, in terms of aside from the Muppets and things, he's also, you know, established film director, multi-talented person.
I still find it funny when you tell people that Miss Piggy was played by a dude and they don't know that Miss Piggy was played by Frank Oz. I still find that funny.
Yeah, I mean, Miss Piggy's that's probably one of his most iconic characters they did, or the most just enjoyable. He's just so funny.
Well, I remember there was a conversation I had with someone years ago where we had talked about how there are some like female characters that are played by men, and some people are like so attached to the show or they get so into it that they completely forget that it's played by a male character or a male actor.
Right.
I think like Bob's Burgers was one of them. Because I still,
yes,
I think about Linda, like whenever I watch that show, I know it's a dude, but every time I watch that show, I don't think about the fact that Linda is voiced by a guy. Like it's just that good of a performance to me.
Yeah, it was like Brad Bird in The Incredibles, where he played, what's her name, the fashionista.
Edna. Yeah, Edna.
You know, that was a great role. So and you know, flip it on the other side. There's some great women who have done boy voices, which we know, but even like on Ed, and Eddy, like Kevin is played by Kathleen Barr.
Kathleen Barr as Kevin. Yeah. I was not really allowed to watch Ed, and Eddy as a kid, so I didn't watch it a lot. But when I did watch that, I did not know Kevin was played by a woman.
Yeah.
Until I think I was like 16. Like
yeah, just such a good job. Dork. Yeah, she was so good.
Well, and Kathy in My Little Pony is another one as Spike. That's another really good one.
Oh yeah. Kathy was Spike. Yeah. There's some fabulous female voice actors here who do great little boys. They just do them so good. It's amazing.
Actually, that does transition into another question, because you were a couple characters on My Little Pony, but primarily you were Flim, one of the Flim Flam brothers, which
That's
were
right.
probably some of the funniest recurring antagonist characters on the show.
Yeah, it was Scott McNeil and myself. We were the Flim Flam duo, and the first episode of that was just the song itself was just Daniel Ingram, the composer, and he was directing us, the musical director. Really, he was directing us for the songs. The super speedy side of Squeezy 6000. It was trying to talk like really quickly. Well, look at what we got, dear brother of mine. It's the same in every town. It was like ponies with 35 dry tons and other dramatized. But it was just like not a dramatized to be found. Maybe they're not aware that there's really no need for this theory to spare. It was just like my lips and my tongue were like for a moment. There was a moment when I memorized that song for like when we were doing like, you know, pony cons. Like this is over 10 years ago now, but I was really trying to get the song down so I could, you know, help people and sing. Well, you got opportunity in this very community. He's Flim, his fam with world famous Flim Flam brothers, traveling sales ponies non-powered.
Non-powered.
It was fun.
Well, it's a very, very Music Man.
Oh yeah, it was
number.
totally. They
very,
said, just
very
watch
Music Man.
Yeah, they said watch Music Man, watch this, and then you'll get the feel we're going for. And I was like, oh yeah. So it was fun. Yeah, we had. I think we had like maybe.
I think four,
three or four,
something like that.
3 or 4 songs that we had to memorize, and every time we came in, and it was just, oh brother, what do you say, brother? It's like, well, I don't know, brother. I was like, no. Yeah, that was a fun, and you know, it's always, especially with the whole pony world, you know, everybody would grab onto whatever fave pony or unicorn really, but You know, so it was always fun to watch the people who would flim flam cosplay and things like that, and actually make their own super speedy cider squeezy 6,000 machines to bring them to the cons. I'm like, you guys put a lot of work into that.
I'm so amazed at the persistence of the Brony community. Even 5 years after that show ended, like still. Yeah. I have friends who go to. I have a friend named Chrissy, and she sells art at those conventions, and she still goes to those. She just went to one. Like,
well, I was just talking. Well, I haven't talked to. Well, I'm going to be seeing Andrea soon. She's having her 40th birthday, if you can believe it. But her and I have the same agent, and they just went down to San Francisco not too long ago for a big PonyCon. So it's still happening, like not to the same degree, but it's still going on. It keeps going. And this is a funny little thing, is that in China now, they're a little behind the times, but they finally got My Little Pony there. The government, I guess, said, okay, you guys can watch this show. And it was just the English. There was no Mandarin.
Really?
No, so it's the English. So they're obsessed with the English, original English language.
Okay.
So they're inviting PonyCast members over to cons there. And
wow.
They're like, and it's just like, I won't go into details, but it was like certain actors were being requested to go, and they're saying like, well, I'm only going to go if, like, almost like saying, I'll put something outrageous out there, and I'm sure they'll say no. So just like, yeah, I want this, and they're like, okay. Really? Yep, we're good. It's like, okay. So it's like they are rabid for wanting, and it's funny because it's like everybody kind of, not to say everybody got over, there's still hardcore pony fans out there, but you know, it kind of came and went. But in China, it's going hard.
Well, it's funny because I remember when that show went to Japan. I think it went to Japan like a year or two into the American run, and it did not last super long in Japan. I think it only ran like 3 or 4 years in Japan, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, maybe they just thought, you know what, our cute kawaii friendship stuff is just better. I mean, they got so much content out there. Maybe it was just like, it didn't resonate for them. I don't know, but it sure did resonate for a lot of people. I was so amazed when that all blew up, and I was very happy to see that so many people that I worked with just getting their props as performers and actors, because it really, you know, it was like Ed and Eddy was a little too early for that kind of stuff, you know, but they hit, like, when the pony stuff blew up, I was just so happy for people that I worked with beginning recognition for how talented they were, and I was just so happy for their success.
I mean, that was also just kind of like a lightning in a bottle thing.
Yes.
At the time that show happened. Because even the new show hasn't reached even close to the same level of success as Gen 4 did. Mm-hmm. And I just find it so crazy looking back on MLP, because I was a fan of the show. Like, I think around the time the second season was on, I got into it. So that was like my sophomore year of high school.
Right.
And I just remember I think I followed that show for like 4 or 5 years, and looking back on very recently, I was looking at like YouTube videos from that era and like animations that people did and music, and I was just kind of thinking about how, like, I don't think I have ever seen a show hit that hard of a fan base like that fast.
Yeah, you're right. The lightning in a bottle expression is just for that. And it was just, because, you know, most of us were like, whoa, what's My Little Pony? And then you started to get on board, and you, like, the more you saw it, and then everybody's like, I want to be on My Little Pony, because everybody's hoping I'm going to be a pony that somebody's obsessed with, and they're going to invite me to a convention. So it became like, I got to get on My Little Pony.
Oh no, I've looked at the behind the voice actors page and looked at like every actor. That show did basically become like a Vancouver like Rolodex of talent. I think it's like every major voice actor in Vancouver was on that show by the end of it.
Well, it was just part of the whole thing, is like they did have a few LA based actors on the show, but The majority of, and then you're just going through all the voice actors in Vancouver. I mean, it's not the biggest market in the world. It's a smaller stable of actors. So eventually, you were gonna, one of us was gonna be there somewhere. So, yeah, but that was I don't know, that was a fun time and a cool period in animation in Vancouver for Vancouver-based Canadian actors, just to kind of be out there, people getting some renown for their work. That was nice.
Well, and I remember a few years later, Littlest Pet Shop came out, and that was a lot of the same people. And I remember there was a lot of carryover from the My Little Pony fan base into that show because there was a lot of the same people involved in that production.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley was there, and she was Blythe, and obviously her having two characters on My Little Pony. Yeah, there was a lot of there was some definite crossover there, and that was a fun show too. I mean, I think people are like, maybe Littlest Pet Shop will hit as big as My Little Pony. I'm like, no, it's not. But it still had good production value and cool songs and stuff. But like you say, lightning in a bottle. Like you hope for one of those.
It did do fairly well. I think it ran about 5 years.
Oh yeah, no, we did a lot of episodes. It's just like, it's compared to the mania of that whole the My Little Pony was just like, but it was a good show. I enjoyed doing it. It was fun. I was happy.
I was actually curious with Littlest Pet Shop because I think that might be the most incidentals and side characters you played on a show on top of playing a main character. And
yeah,
I always get curious with that because it'll be either like a big character for one episode on top of Russell that you were playing. Yeah. And would that just be a thing where they'd be like, all right, who wants to play this side character? Who wants to play this one-off guest character? Like, would it be like that, or would you all just kind of like...
It's hard to say. I'm trying to remember. Sometimes, like early back in the day, sometimes it would be, hey guys, we got this role here. Who wants it? And everybody's like, oh, let me. And then it was like a bunch of kids fighting over a candy bar, like auditioning in front of each other, trying to get the part. And it just was like, in the early days, it was kind of like that. Hey, come on, guys, I want, and it was that kind of feel. But I think it just got a little bit more like, I don't know. I don't want to call it professional, but actors are, they're sensitive people like everyone else, and they don't necessarily auditioning in front of another actor and see, oh yeah, I can do better than that, and blah blah blah. It's like So I think a lot of the times you were told, okay, ahead of time, like you're gonna tackle this character in the next episode, so look it up, study it, and this is the character. Sometimes there were actually auditions on the day. we called it the walk of shame. It was kind of funny. you on the day of recording, it's like 4 or 5 or 6 actors would come into audition that day for that part that was going to record in the episode, and you would go in and you do your thing and you all wait around for 5 minutes, and they go, okay, Bob, you got the part, and you all can leave. It's like, and they all walk in, just like that kind of thing where it would be like, kind of cringy, but they did that sometimes. But most of the time, I think it was like you were given a little warning that you're gonna do, or sometimes it would be a thing like, we think we want you for this, and everybody would leave, and then you would do your sample of it, and then they go, okay, that's good, and then bring everybody back in. But kind of like the decorum kind of improved a bit. It wasn't like throwing a piece of meat to a bunch of tigers and go, I got it. So, but yeah.
Because I remember I interviewed Pat Fraley, the voice of Krang, from the 80s show several months ago, and I remember asking him. I asked him about that because it was obviously the late 80s, so it was a very different time for recording stuff at the time. And I think he had said, yeah, sometimes they'd just be like, hey, Pat, you want to play this? And I'd be like, sure. Like, it would just be like, they just kind of hand him roles.
Oh, yeah, they would do that for sure, and obviously the thing is, it's kind of like, the more experienced people might get the offerings before someone who was still trying to prove themselves. You know what I mean? So there was, you know, it's just like there was a certain little pecking order that goes on. That's, you know, that's kind of a societal thing. But even in the voice acting world, there was kind of that as well. But you know, it's also a business, and you got to go with the people that you think are going to deliver the goods quickly on time and get it done. Sometimes, or sometimes you go, okay,
This is your shot, kid. You get it. We're getting you a free roll today. Go for it. Don't screw it up.
you know.
I was looking just now actually because I was looking at the cast on BTVA and I was wondering like who got the most incidentals, and Peter got the most.
Peter knew?
Yeah, he got the most looking at the side characters and one-offs.
There you go. I could see that. Yeah,
It was Peter, you, and Tabitha.
Oh,
were
of course,
were the top three.
I mean, Tabitha was the go-to multi-tool, you know, multi-purpose tool voice person that you know she's gonna, whatever she brings to the table, she's gonna.
Oh, Tabitha amazes me. Like anytime I see her in things, I reached out to her fairly recently for the podcast, and it was the first time I think I'd had this where she said just like, "Thanks for the offer. I'm just not very good at podcasts." Is like, which I respect because I don't usually have people that say like we actually talked for a few emails. Like she was just like, we just kind of back and forth a little bit through email. She's like, oh, if you want to talk about gardening or aliens
cats.
or weird things. Yeah. She
cats,
was just like
aliens, gardens, painted furniture. She's a very kind of, she's a very multi-talented kind of artistic person. And she's not, I could see her not wanting to talk about her career and voices and all.
Well,
that.
it was funny because after I saw she said that, I was like, there's no way. And I went to YouTube and I found, I think, 2 in the last 15 years, 2 interviews she did. I was like, wow, she's not kidding. She does not do interviews.
Yeah, she doesn't go to parties. I was just to bug her about that. Hey, you gonna be at the party? Blah blah. You know, be like, no. All right, come on. I'd be like, come on. Why don't you come out once in a while? Hang out. Because I don't want to. I'm like, fair enough. most of his actors, we just get together, we just jibber jab and talk and blah 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 blah, and you know.
Some people are introverted and they just kind of don't want to hang out.
She's not an introvert either. It's just who knows? Like she says, I'd rather hang out with my plants than with you people. Okay. But Tabitha was always every friggin' record. I don't know if you knew this. Every record she brought treats for people. She brought cookies. She was the cooking cake all the time. She was good for that every time. Bag of cookies. Uprising Bakery on Commercial Drive. Oh no, it's on Venables. I'm shouting out that because I think that's where she got most of her stuff from. But yeah, she was so good with that. People are like, I need a cookie, Tabitha. I'm low energy. I need a cookie. And she'd be like, okay, here you go, darling. So yeah, she's the cookie lady.
And I guess in contrast to Littlest Pet Shop and My Little Pony, something I've been very curious about, and I don't think I've seen a lot of Vancouver voice actors really talk about this. Sausage Party.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that was the strangest session I ever had.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, because that's like.
We're now going 18. Hey everybody. 18.
Like with Sausage Party, I hadn't really seen, I couldn't really find any interviews of like any of the Vancouver talent talking about it, because aside from the main cast, for people watching this who don't know, it is a completely, like, all the incidentals and one-offs in that movie is Vancouver voice actors.
That's right, people. We are all the bags of chips, all the cans of beans, and we're all the bottled salsas. Okay, just to let you know. You can't have a show, a Sausage Party, without all your condiments. And when I say condiments, I mean condiments. It was there was a lot. I remember that, getting a cup. I can't remember. You get the call. Okay, so guess what, Sam? You're the can of beans. I'm like, yes. And you're a bag of chips. Yes. And I can't remember what it was. Just like, and you're a Pop-Tart. Yeah.
I was looking at the page. It's old pork sausage.
This is me. Old
Yes,
pork
this
sausage?
is your
Okay.
character's old pork sausage, licorice rope, Pop Tart.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I remember the licorice rope because it was in the trailer. I remember the licorice.
Dude, yeah. Can we just? All right. Well, the thing is, because you said we can be a little bit. I'm gonna.
You can be as vulgar as you want. I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was literally. Well, you saw the movie. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, guys, now we're doing the food orgy, and you're like, and it was like, it's like the licorice rope it involved like strangulation, and somebody's getting something, and you're just really. And you're like, okay, just encourage them. Like, you're there talking dirty to them and say, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you're just like, okay. So that was an interesting experience for sure. Everybody, it was the food orgy stuff that we were all just looking at each other, shaking our heads going, we get paid for this?
Was that one of the bits where you were seeing like rough animation for it, or was that like fully like...
I'm trying to remember. I think we did see some kind of basic animatics, to be honest with you. I think I remember that. Because they were doing the animation in Vancouver as well, which was a whole other story. But I think we saw some basic animatics when that happened. So we kind of got an idea of what we were doing. Oh, so that's the licorice is wrapped around the thing's neck, and then you'd be... It was just, yeah, it was funny.
Was that group sessions? If for a film, I actually wouldn't know if with the incidentals if that would be like group, like people together.
I think we recorded separately, but they brought us in like as a group. We were kind of in a waiting room, and we went in. And I'm trying to remember. I think maybe there would have been maybe 2 or 3 of us at a time in a room, and then obviously we took our lines separately and did it. So I think that's how it went. It's hard. It's all very hazy. I was really, really wasted when I did that scene. I don't remember nothing, man. Yeah.
I remember in the movie, because I remember it's one of the only, like, deliveries in the movie I remember, and it's actually from one of your characters in the movie. I remember it's this Pop-Tart that gets crushed by somebody, like, gets stepped on, and I just remember...
Tell me, I can't remember.
It's this one line, it's, like, right before they get crushed, you just hear, oh, shit! And they get stepped on.
What did I just say? Shit?
No, it's just, oh shit! And then they get stepped on. It's just the way that the Pop-Tart said, oh shit. I don't know why I've always remembered that.
I'll have to go. I remember when it came out, whoever was working on it, we all went to watch it in the theater because we were kind of like, hey, we're in Sausage Party. We watched it, and it was, we had a good time. You're kind of listening, oh, wait, where am I? Oh, yeah, that's me. Or, it was just like trying to remember what part, and I think they cut a whole bunch out at the end of the orgy. There should be an extended orgy edition of that. But
oh, I remember in the theater when that scene happened, there were so many like theater reactions on YouTube of like people reacting to that scene. And I remember being in the theater and hearing so many people in that theater go, "Oh God. Oh," like during that whole scene. Like,
I remember that night. I think we went to. I remember. Are you still there?
yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought maybe we had a falling out. Did Michael and I have a falling out? I don't know. Yeah, I remember. It was on. I think it was on Twitter at the time. I took a pic. Me and Vince and I were outside of the theater. Vincent Tong, and there's the poster, and we were doing something dirty to the poster or something. It was fitting to the thing, but yeah, interesting experience.
I actually don't know, because I know there was like a mini series of that movie that just came out.
Yeah, apparently somebody.
I don't know if they had Canadian voice actors do the incidentals again, or if that was like something else. Yeah,
I have no idea. I wasn't part of it. Somebody just direct messaged me or something on Instagram saying, "Hey man, I just saw the
Foodtopia," I think is what it's called.
Yeah, and I said, "Oh, it was great." And I almost feel like they thought maybe I was involved in it, but I didn't like. And I'm looking forward to the series. And I was like, "Awesome," because I was like, "I'm not. I don't. If you think I had anything to do with it, I didn't. But I'm glad you're enjoying it, and was happy to be a part of the first one." But, yeah.
But I guess like another question, because I always ask this to people. I guess like, what is your favorite role you've ever done?
Yeah, that one. That question.
The stereotypical question, but
Yeah, I have, for me, when I look back on my career, it's always like these firsts that happen, um, one role that never made it, to we recorded 40 episodes of this show, and I was the hero. I think his name was Jack Tilden. It was my first shot, aside from doing this other show called Monkey Magic, which I was played a monkey. This was my first role as a human being a lead hero in a show. So for me, that was the first time that I was like doing the lead hero in a show, and that was kind of a big thing for me, because it was like, you have these little milestones. It was called The Lost Continent of Lemuria or something.
oh my
like that.
God, I was just okay. I interviewed Trevor Duvall.
Oh, okay. So
10
Trevor,
10
that's
years
the first
ago.
show that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's Trevor and I. We were,
And
that was
I
the
was
first time.
just thinking about you were saying this, and I was remembering Trevor telling me this story like 9 years ago. I interviewed Trevor, and he was telling me about this show that he was in that just like never got made.
Yeah, and it was like so excited about it, because it was just like that adventure, swashbuckling thing, and Trevor was the knight, and we had a samurai in it. We had like just so many people in it, and Sue Blue was doing the voice direction, and Scotty was in it, and we were just like, yeah, man. And then was like, yeah, so money ran out, we're not doing it.
So I don't even remember because it's been so long, but I think I remember asking him, was there ever any finished animation, or like, do you even know?
I've never seen anything. I mean, I was so excited to see it, because like I say, it was like my first lead, super, like hero guy, and so I was so excited to be, a part of it. And then when it was kind of disappointing to know that it was never going to see the light of day, and I don't know, they must have had some kind of basic animatic or something. I mean,
What was it called? Lost Continent of...
I don't, it was about Lemuria, the continent of Lemuria, not Atlantis. Lemuria, the other one, the other lost continent that nobody ever talks about. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know
trying
if
to
you-
see if there's like
yeah.
any information about it online, and it
Yeah, it's-
seems to be, looking it up, that there's like no information about this, looking it up online.
It's very sparse.
No
yeah,
lost
it's very-
media, like there doesn't really seem to be like a lost media thing for it or anything when I look it up.
Yeah, and I can't even, like, I'm probably not even getting the name of it right now, but yeah, it had to do with Lemuria. We're all there, time portals and or different people from different time periods getting stuck.
Do you
in
remember the
Lemuria.
name of the character? What was it again?
I think my character's name was Jack Tilden, Tilden.
I'm like looking this up now because now I'm really
Yeah.
curious to see if there's like any information about this show, because I never looked it up back then.
Yeah.
And now there's like big searches for lost media stuff like all the time now. Like,
Oh, is that right?
oh yeah, like games, movies, shows. There's been such a big surge in like lost media in the last like 10 years.
Yeah, well, it'd be, yeah. Yeah, because it was crazy. We recorded like 40 episodes of this thing. So it was bizarre for it not to, I guess you just cut your losses and say no, because, in the grand scheme of things, recording 40 episodes of a show is not as expensive as animating 40 episodes of a show. So kind of went, yeah.
Well, I think Trevor told me that was like his first non-anime role, something like that. I think he had
that
said.
was his first big, regular series in prelay animation, as we call it. I remember meeting Trevor we're good friends to this day. But that was good times back in the day.
And I guess I'd say, like, what advice could you give to somebody who's interested in this profession?
Well, I'm always, I don't want to say I'm hesitant, because my experience of this industry and how I got into it is so completely, I think, different than the way it is today. I was, part of it is right place, right time for me, having the good fortune to start in high school, get an agent so young, start getting some professional work under my belt, and then kind of the whole animation industry starting to burgeon up in Vancouver, and kind of being thrown into this new kind of world, and kind of it really was like learning this voice acting thing on the job. You know what I mean? You got the job, now you're learning how to voice act, you know. And I just remember my whole journey of learning how to voice act, and you know, the first couple of shows I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, to be honest with you. I was just trying my best to, you know, but just everything from just being a seasoned speaker and diction and mic technique and creating character and having that character, you know, be pushed out and living. All that stuff takes time to learn how to do. But I had the good fortune of getting work and learning how to do that on the job, which is so rare nowadays because, you know, it's all about, and the thing too is now people go, I want to be a voice actor. And they've got this career chosen in their head in the beginning. And I never had that really. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be a voice actor. I mean, when I was young, I thought I might be getting into animation, maybe on the drawing side. But so when I give people advice, I think like now the one thing that people can do is you can always practice. Like there's so many like information about anything you want is available if you just put the grunt work in and study and find out. There's so many people, voice actors, voice performers talking about their experiences, talking about, you know, so just do your research as much as you can. You got to keep practicing your voice work, watching cartoons, finding your characters, developing your abilities, having a little setup at home so you can do the work. And you know, you might not be able to afford a super expensive microphone, but you can afford a microphone and a pair of headphones and work on your stuff. And then also I think before, because you know, the steps of going from working on your voices, getting a demo together that sounds good, a professional, trying to approach an agent who works in the industry, getting an agent who already has a huge roster of voice actors who are already working, and they're going to bring you on because they think they see something in you, which is a huge step. And then you get into the audition circuit, and then you're auditioning, and then you're trying to get your first job. Like there's this whole process. But while you're trying to become a professional, you know, you have to work with other people who have aspirations to be in animation, and perhaps not voice actors, but animators, people who are going to school, who have their own little projects that they're trying to get off, just to show, like, whether it's their demo projects for their school grades or whatever, and they need to find voice actors to work in these things, and they're going, I can't get like these professional voice actors to come do my little school project. You got to be saying, well, I'm pretty good at it. Listen to my demo tape. Listen to me. You think there's something for me in this little project of yours? And, you know, and if you guys strike a relationship and they like your stuff, and then you're a voice in this demo or this little project, then you've got something for your, you know, your demo reel that you can show to an agent while you're trying to get an agent or whatever. So you have to kind of make connections. And I think there's a lot more of that now with students, people passionate about animation, wanting to work together to try and get to that point where they can be professionals. So that's something that I would suggest to people.